Zen Buddhism in Japan by Michelle Bay and Dana Shin. We will start out by introducing the general facts about Zen. Zen is a Japanese school of Mahayana Buddhism. The origin of the word Zen comes from a Chinese word Chan in Japanese pronunciation. Chan in turn is derived from a Sanskrit word, dhyana. This word means meditation or meditative state. Zen's emphasis is mainly on wisdom, especially of meditation and intuition. Thus, Zen gives little importance to enlightenment through direct realization. As mentioned previously, the teachings of Zen include various sources of Mahayana thought. Some of the examples include the Prajnaparamita literature and the teachings of the Yogacara and Tathagatagarbha schools. Zen followers do not believe in a single god. They believe in numerous gods, which include the Gautama Buddha, Amitabha, Medicine Buddha, and more. Zen emerged as a district school of Buddhism. This was documented in China in the 7th century CE. Zen started spreading towards the southern part of Vietnam and the east to Korea and Japan. Zen is actually credited to the Persian or South Indian Pahlavi prince and monk Bodhidharma. He came to China to teach a special transmission of Sai scriptures not founded on words or letters. The life in the Zen monastery is very harsh and aesthetic. Zen monks usually shave their head, wear black robes, and wear white tabi, which are socks. They sometimes go out begging. However, it is not so important whether they collect anything or not. What just matters is whether the act of begging is done. Zen also teaches that every act in life, like eating and bathing and doing chores, are directly related to Zen practice and are regulated. In the monastery, electronic devices such as cell phones or televisions are not allowed. Even newspapers are forbidden. The strict regulations were formed to eliminate desires and focus more on controlling its mind. We will now focus on Zen in Japan in particular. Zen Buddhism arrived in Japan in the 7th century. However, the 12th century is when it really started to develop. Since then, Zen is an important force in Japan. This ideal had a huge influence in the Japanese culture. Some of the influences of culture are the temples, gardening, ink painting, calligraphy, and tea ceremony, and also some of the military strategies. The Zen priests played a huge role in preserving this culture. Zen in Japan includes schools named Soto, Rinzai, and Obaku. Soto is the largest and Obaku is the smallest. For Rinzai, it is divided again into several sub-schools based on temple affiliation. These sub-schools include Myoshinji, Nansenji, Teruji, Daltokuji, and Tofukuji. In 1410, a monk from Nanzenji wrote out a landscape poem and painted scenes described by the poem. He created the Shigajiku poem and a painting scroll in which gathered responses to the images by asking fellow monks and government officials to inscribe it. These scrolls emerged as a preeminent form of elite Japanese culture during the Golden Age, known as the Japanese Zen culture, in the last 2 decades of the 14th century. The literature of Zen are profound. They could only be understood through personal experience. The poetic instead of explanatory expressions also adds to its complexity. Zen was not introduced as a separate school at first. It was the 12th century when Moyen Aisai traveled to China and established a Linji lineage. This is known as the Rinzai in Japan. Later on, Nampo Shomyo, who lived from 1235 to 1308, studied the Linji teachings in China before it has founded the Japanese Otokan lineage. The Otokan lineage is the most famous and influential branch of Rinzai. In 1214, Dojin, whom is a younger contemporary of Aisa's, journeyed to China himself, where he became a disciple of the Caodong master Tiantong Rijun. When he returned, Donjin established the Soto school, which is a Japanese branch of Caodong. In the 17th century, the Obaku lineage was introduced by Injin, a Chinese monk. Injin has been the members of Linji school, the Chinese equivalent of Rinzai, which developed separately from the Japanese branch for hundreds of years. Therefore, when Linjin journeyed to Japan following the fall season of the Ming Dynasty to the Manchus, her teachings were seen as a separate school. The Obaku school was named as Mount Obaku, which has been the Injin's home in China. One of the Zen temples in Japan is in Nagasaki Sofukuji, which was constructed in 1629. Also, the Zen paintings acts as a visual koan or sermon in whose teaching is offered through concise and direct pointing. This form of teaching is still employed by many Zen teachers, both East and West. A brush from sumi ink and rice paper is all you need to get started in this practice of this ancient Zen art. Now we will compare Zen Buddhism with other religions and also among the different sects within the religion to show some of the special characteristics Zen has. As mentioned previously, Zen means meditation. The Zen masters have designed different methods for meditation. Four of the main ones include counting your breathing, following your breathing in your mind, shikantaza, which is a method in which you just sit in your whole awareness, and koans. The difference between other Buddhist sects is that some of the methods do not require long periods of study to obtain the knowledge. Although Zen Buddhism puts an emphasis on enlightenment, not through direct realization, one of the methods called Satori can be done by everyone. They have the belief that each and every one of them has Buddhas inside them. Thus, other sects of Buddhism gives minimal importance to direct realization, like the Theravada, and which requires several stages on the way to enlightenment. Some more differences include the Kadampa, a school in Tibetan Buddhism, in which practices with tantras, while Zen Buddhism works with sutras. To sum up, the key characteristics of this Buddhist sect, we will explain in brief phrases about what it is because Zen is really hard to explain. First, the essence of Zen Buddhism is achieving enlightenment by seeing one's original mind directly, without the intervention of the intellect. Zen is concerned with what actually is, rather than what we think or feel about it. Zen is concerned with things as they are, without trying to interpret them. Zen points to something before thinking, before all your ideas. The key to Buddhahood in Zen is simply self-knowledge. To be a human being is to be a Buddha. Buddha nature is just another name for human nature, true human nature. Zen is simply to be completely alive. Zen is short for Zen Buddhism. It is sometimes called a religion and sometimes called a philosophy. Zen tries to free the mind from the slavery of words and the constriction of logic. Zen in its essence is the art of seeing into the nature of one's own being, and it points the way from bondage to freedom. Zen is meditation.